The phone vibrated on the polished mahogany table. I didn't reach for it. My wife laughed softly, a sound that suddenly seemed foreign. The room smelled faintly of incense, but the tension in the air was heavier than any scent. She spoke in Japanese, a casual, almost teasing tone. I pretended I didn't understand. Let her words wash over me harmlessly, I thought. Then I heard it. A sharp, biting sentence that froze my blood. If you want to join Thanksgiving, come wash the dishes. The voice was unmistakable, my daughter-in-law. Loud, mocking, triumphant over the phone. I kept my face neutral. I didn't flinch. I whispered nothing. Just let the words echo in my head like a hammer striking glass. I replied simply, "Enjoy." She heard nothing in my tone. Nothing. Perfect. And yet, the echo of her audacity didn't fade. I saw the faint tremor of laughter leave my wife's lips. That tremor, the casual ease, the unknowing complicity was a needle, driving itself into my chest. My hand hovered over the phone again. The screen displayed a string of numbers, but I ignored them. The world outside continued, suitcases rolling, the scent of sushi from the neighboring room, the faint whir of a ceiling fan, but inside me, a storm had started. A storm that needed no announcement. I had always trusted my wife. Or rather, I thought I had. But today, sitting in a sterile hotel room in Tokyo, $50 million worth of contracts resting on the table, trust shattered silently. Not with a bang. Not with a fight. Just a phrase. I watched her fingers trace the rim of her glass, slow, deliberate. She spoke Japanese to our client with ease, laughing at small jokes I pretended to miss. I nodded at the right moments, smiled when expected, let the deal proceed. But beneath the surface, I was silent. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet, cold, calculated. I remembered the subtle things I had ignored. A message left unsent on her phone, a name that appeared too frequently in her calls, the way she avoided my eyes during family gatherings. All minor, all plausible deniabilities. But today's words, a command from my own family, indirectly mocking me, cut a line I could no longer ignore. The thought crept in, poisonous but precise. She had taken my trust and discarded it. My life, my loyalty, my presence, it was a backdrop to her performance. I kept my composure. I smiled. I shook hands. I let everyone think the deal, the laughter, the success meant something. But inside, I was already 2 steps ahead. I decided, in that quiet storm, that nothing would happen by accident from now on. Back in Switzerland, the villa stood cold and immaculate. Expensive art lined the walls. Marble floors reflected light in calculated angles. And I watched, deliberately, as my wife and daughter-in-law flitted through the rooms, blissfully unaware that every digital footprint was being recorded, every casual gesture catalogued. I had my methods. Discreet, clinical, and perfectly legal. I retrieved the phone bills, cross-referenced the times, the calls, the slight shifts in tone. Each message, each laugh, each denial, I archived them in my mind. Late nights, I ran data quietly. Texts that had disappeared, logs that had been lost, phone calls routed through untraceable numbers, I uncovered them all. A pattern emerged, jagged and precise. I didn't confront. Not yet. I watched. I noted how my wife lingered a little too long on calls. How her eyes darted when she thought I wasn't noticing. How my daughter-in-law's tones shifted from playful to aggressive when she assumed I was out of earshot. I listened to recordings, just snippets, enough to confirm suspicions without raising alarms. Every step was calculated. Every emotion measured. Rage simmered, yes, but it was controlled, like molten metal waiting to be poured into a mold. I took photos of her conversations, her interactions. Not to shame, not to expose publicly, but to know, to confirm, to ensure that when the time came, the truth would hit with surgical precision. The DNA results arrived in a plain white envelope. I held it with steady hands. No tremor. Inside, the paper confirmed it all: the betrayal, the deception, the lies. She had been hiding more than casual infidelity. It was a calculated game. Every lie carefully crafted, every excuse premeditated, every smile a weapon. I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I simply placed the envelope on the breakfast table, next to her untouched coffee. She glanced at it, puzzled. Is this? I looked at her. My face blank. My voice calm. Yes, I said. Everything. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. The words she wanted to speak, denials, pleas, excuses, froze midair. She realized finally that I had seen everything, known everything, calculated everything. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need dramatic gestures. The silence was enough. The betrayal had been a game, but the truth was lethal in its quiet. I showed her the photos of the villa. Every room, every view, every luxurious detail. The phone rang 71 times. She answered desperately, voice quivering. "Why are you calling?" she asked. I said nothing. I let the images speak. Let the numbers echo the message she had ignored for too long, that I had control, and she had none. I walked into the room, sat opposite her, calm, detached. "You wanted power," I said. "You wanted to command, to manipulate, to laugh over my silence." Her lips trembled. A whimper. "I allowed you," I continued, each word measured, slicing. "You didn't realize that silence is more dangerous than words. You didn't see me building, planning, waiting." She tried to speak. I shook my head. The time for excuses is gone. The truth is here. I handed her the envelope. Her hands shook as she touched it. She looked at me, eyes wide, realization dawning. Fear. Shock. The calculated facade of superiority crumbled into dust. I stood, slowly, coldly. "You've had your fun," I said. "Now leave my world. Forever." And I walked away. Every step echoed, deliberate. Each footfall a reminder of the power shift. She would remember this moment for the rest of her life, the moment when the one she thought powerless had quietly crushed her. I returned to the villa. Quiet. The sunlight fell across the marble floors. Nothing moved except the wind outside. I poured myself a drink. Bitter, dark, precise. No need for celebration. No triumph in noise. Just clarity. I thought of her. The betrayal. The audacity. The laughter. It didn't matter. Because I had the truth. Because I had control. Because she had nothing left. I smiled faintly. Not for her. Not for revenge. For myself. The storm had passed. Calm returned. But it was not peace. It was clarity. And in that clarity, I realized no one touches my life without consequence. No one. I set the glass down. The villa was silent. The phone was quiet. And I was free.